Welcome to Two Guys, Two Questions, a chaotic, unscripted podcast.
Yeah, surprise questions with no prep.
I'm Ryan Keaton, a real estate guy who's happiest with an ocean view.
And I'm Jarrod Greer, a retro toy fanatic / loather who may or may not have a Batman cape within arm's reach right now.
You definitely do.
You don't know that.
From alligators to vibrators, superheroes to existential crisis, we cover it all.
Plus, every month we'll bring in a mystery guest and try to keep things extra unpredictable.
So if you like spontaneous conversations, French bulldogs stealing the show, and two guys who think they're funnier than they probably are, then you're in the right place.
Yep. Well, enough of this. Let's do this. Two Guys, Two Questions starts now. All right, Ryan, tell me something good.
Tell you something good.
Yep.
I will tell you something good. I want to get on to your nonsense of a vehicle. I want you to tell that fun, beautiful story because we were texting a little bit during the course of that, and I kept saying, just fucking walk out. 4 hours? Was that it? 4 hours?
I mean, in total, it was an 8-hour ordeal.
See, I just think
that's stupid. And that was with the day before. And okay, so fuck it, I'm gonna tell everything. There's a car lot here in Ashland. Used to be Don Hall. Now it's called Mark Porter Chevrolet. Anyway, I called my guy down there because he sold me a car a year or so ago, and I just told him, went in there last time and said, listen, I'm going to buy that. Here's what I'm willing to give. I'm not going to stay around here all day and deal with the back and forth. Just call me when it's ready to sign the papers, and I'll come down and sign it, and you can give me the keys. I said, I don't want to be here more than 20 minutes. And he said, that's fair. I'll do that. So we did that on the Blazer and got that done. So I went back to him, and this time I said, hey, you have a Denali I want. Here's what I'm willing to pay. Call me when the paperwork's done. He called me back the next, or sent me a text the next day and said, I can't sell you that for what you want to pay. And I said, damn, that sucks. Well, it so happened that here's where we get funny. That truck, it's a truck.
Yeah. Truck needs a bed.
Well, that's a whole other sidebar. We'll get back to that. Anyway, it was on Mark Porter's lot in Pomeroy, Ohio. So I thought, fuck it, I'll take a stab at it. And I drove up there. And as soon as I walked in, I just stumbled into the sales manager's office. And I said, hey, I want to buy that Denali out there. Here's what I'm willing to pay. If you can get it done, I'll buy it right now. And I said, I'm just going to tell you, I went to your Ashland location, and they told me they couldn't do it for that. And he said, oh, I can do that for sure. I said, okay, write it up. And he went and got one of the salespeople and said, write this deal up, and we'll see if we can get it done here in a minute. So I went out and just looked at the truck, and we took it down the road for a minute. I come back, and she puts a piece of paper in front of me that's, let's say, a couple $1,000s more than I said I wanted to pay for it. And I said, listen, we're done. See ya. And she said, give me 2 minutes. I said, okay. So at that point, I'd lost $2 because Katrina was with me, and she bet me $2 that they wouldn't have the deal done when I got in there.
Yep.
So anyway, so we go back. I give her 2 minutes. She comes back with another fucking deal that wasn't what I said. I said, listen, I got to go. I told you what I'm willing to pay. And she said, so if he can make it say what you want it to be, you'll buy the vehicle. And I said, yes, I told you
That's what I said when I came in the door.
I told you already. So she says, okay, hold on, give me 30 seconds. And I hear the sales manager screaming from his office, give me some time, I'll get it done. Okay, whatever. And like literally before all was said and done, I was in there 4 fucking hours or so, and then it's an hour and a half up, an hour and a half back.
I hate buying cars.
It sucks.
I hate it.
And when I left there, I paid exactly what I told them 30 seconds into walking into the place.
See, to me, that's what aggravates me, because when a vehicle that I had just, that we had got, and I did the same thing, walked on there, and they're like, well, I can't sell it to you for that. And I'm like, no problem. I'm heading out.
See you.
And we had another dealership. We'd already located one, and we just left. Yeah. And 30 seconds later, they called back, and they were like, we'll give it to you that. And I'm like, why did you make me leave? I was like, I wasn't trying to be rude. And I said, I was very nice the whole time. And if you couldn't do it, no problem. Shake hands. And I moved on. So I go back there, and then they start going through all this other stuff. And I'm like, listen, you've just wasted my time at this point. And we eventually got it. But it was like I had to drive off. I had to come back. Then I had to argue with them. And I'm like, it's make
just
it cut and dry.
It's a piece of shit process. It really is. I mean, somebody a few years ago started the pure pricing thing where, everything's stickered. That's what it cost. I don't remember what dealership it was. I thought that was a great idea, but it just didn't work. I think as American consumers, no matter what the price tag says, we believe that we can negotiate. So it puts the dealership kind of in a spot where they have to try to play a game. I get it. It sucks. I went the last 2 vans ago. I pulled into the lot. I told the guy, I said, I want that van over there. I'm going to give you this van, and I have $20,000 in cash and with me. And I'll give you the van, and I'll leave the $20,000 in it if I can drive that one home. Took 9 hours, and then it got to the end. You'll love this. Got to the end. We made the deal. Got it done. They didn't want to take my cash.
Because they make their money on the financing.
Yep. Yeah. I ended up having to put it on my credit. No, that was just they didn't want the cash in the dealership, I guess. Wow. I ended up having to put it on a credit card and then pay the credit card off.
I do applaud that message, though.
Yeah, I know you do. Fuck you, right. Man, but, in the end, okay, now let's have this conversation. In the end, I got a truck I like.
Truck. I would love to hear feedback from the consumers and the people out there. To me, a truck needs a bed. My correlation to this was like sandwiches, right? Sandwiches, 2 pieces of bread with meat or something on the inside.
Yeah. What's an El Camino?
I feel like you could call an El Camino. I'm okay if you want to call an El Camino a truck because it has a bed.
Okay.
But I think it has to have a bed to be a truck.
Well, this started with my Blazer. It was a Chevy Blazer, and I've always called it a truck because growing up for me, a Blazer was a fucking truck. It was.
But a Blazer was an SUV.
No, back in the day, in 1979, nobody had ever heard the word SUV. It was a truck. A Bronco. What was it? It was a truck.
It was an SUV.
Not in 1979. It wasn't. Not in 1983. I mean, I literally, I would have to think back really hard, but I don't know when I first heard the term SUV, but I was probably in high school.
Really?
I think. I mean, do you remember hearing it much before that?
I growing up, never heard a truck. I'll take that back. Because it is funny.
If your uncle had a 1979 Bronco when you were 8 years old, what would it have been?
It probably would have been an SUV, or it would have been a...
You'd have called it a truck.
I don't know that I've ever had anybody call it a truck besides... Now, I take that back. There's probably some people in my Eastern Kentucky family that would have called it a truck.
Yeah, right.
Anything that is not a little 4-door car to sedan becomes a truck.
I'm a fucking redneck. I don't care,
Hey, live her proud.
Yeah, it's a truck. Anyway, that's so I called you yesterday on my way home and said I think I found another hill I'm willing to die on.
And that's it.
And that was it.
I got cash and you got truck.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That was one of them for sure. Anyway, you sold a house today. Oh, I got to tell you the story because I just got a text. Let's see. Hold on, I got to read this. When the work will be ready to hang. So I have a drywall guy coming to the warehouse to do drywall there, and he just texted me. I'm not even sure how I feel about all this, but it is kind of slightly funny. Shout out to Ebenezer Salazar.
Yes.
That's this dude's name.
I love the name.
I do too. And when I first, I was given his business card, and this business card simply says, "We speak English," with the phone number.
I love it. I love it.
And he's the nicest guy ever. He really is. But I think with a name like Ebenezer Salazar, you are either a supervillain or a Colombian drug lord, maybe. I don't know. I wonder if that's why they're in the drywall business. He's the king of the white powder, maybe. I don't know.
Get the white powder.
I don't know. He's got a whole crew of them. They're going to come in and sling fucking white dust all over that place.
God, I bet they're going to do a fantastic
I bet they will.
job. And quick and correct.
Dude. And like I said, nicest dude ever. He calls me boss. I love it.
Yeah. That's the only person you got working for you.
It gives me any respect. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody else just calls me fuck you. But Anyway, Ebenezer Salazar's got it going on. If y'all need any drywall, hit this man up. He speaks English.
And he's good.
Yep. Anyway. All right. Well, you got a question, Ryan?
I got a question.
Okay.
Which I think is probably perfect timing considering the emotional turmoil that the last few days have been.
Yeah.
And it kind of ties in a little bit to, we were talking, with the questions in a previous episode where we were asking, do you want to have all of your thoughts in your head broadcast out, or would you rather hear what everybody else says, within 10 feet? So my question is, for your monologue, your inner voice, I would like to know what its name is.
Oh.
And
do you have an inner monologue?
There's always shit going on. I've not named it yet, so we may before this episode is up. But I'd like to know what your inner dialogue's name is. What kind of attitude does it have, and what do you feel like that is?
Man, I don't know. So I guess probably halfway recently in the last 10 years or so, I found out some people don't have an inner monologue. Some people don't have
any thoughts in their head.
Well, they do, but they're not presented that way. I guess there's two different ways people process. I don't know. It's a whole fucking Google rabbit hole. But some people don't have, they don't talk to themselves in their head. I guess I don't know how it works for them, but I definitely do.
Yeah,
I definitely shit talk myself all day long in my head, probably.
So are you hearing your own voice in your head? Or do you have maybe like a little Pepe Le Pew voice?
No, it's probably definitely my own voice. I don't know. I don't.
What would you name it? If you had to name it, what would it be? Would it be Little Jarrod? Would it be...
I see where you're going. I see where you're going with this. Ryan made a shitty AI video the other night called it Little Jarrod. Fucker.
Intentionally shitty, too, just to fuck with you. Yeah. That was... the funny thing is I took one of your pictures...
Yeah.
And then I used it to create that. That's what it spit out.
I got you.
Yeah.
I see how you are. I don't know, man. My inner monologue is basically just me talking to myself, kind of.
Yeah.
And me trying to play out situations. It's me wrestling with, if I say this, do I think he'll do that? Or, whatever. What happens if I do this? And I don't really have the angel and the devil that some people have on their shoulders or whatever. Mostly my inner monologue just shit talks me. It just tells me I'm a piece of shit most of the time. I think that's probably called clinical depression. I don't really know, but
I think there might be a drug for that.
There's probably a drug for that as a whole. But I do tend to see the worst case scenario in everything. That's immediately what my mind looks for in every situation. It's how am I getting fucked in this?
That sucks.
Yeah, is that not
sucks. You? No. I tend
for me,
to
it's
see the
Yeah,
positive.
no, for me,
I can spin the shit out of anything and try to figure out, okay, how is this going to be? So I can. Dixie's a little bit like that, and I find I would think that would be incredibly frustrating and demoralizing. That you're always seeing. Oh, I'm getting ready to pull in this driveway, and God, I'm probably going to run over a nail, and I'm probably going to have a flat tire before I pull out of here. Or something.
It's not so much that; it's situational analysis for me. I'm always looking at, okay, if I make the decision to go to Ryan's house, is there going to be a nail in his driveway or whatever, And I tend to be pretty optimistic for the most part, but I will still look at the shittiest situation possible and try to say, okay, is the shittiest situation possible going to work out okay?
Yeah.
My neighbor tells me a lot of times that every time he gets something nice, if he buys a car or if he gets a really cool something that he bought somewhere, the first thing he'll do is show it to me because I'll tell him everything that's wrong with it.
I'm not showing you any of my toys.
So, and I don't do that on purpose. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. If there's one, I went and looked at a few vehicles before I bought this one the other day. And especially Katrina tried to talk me into looking at used vehicles. And if I opened the door and saw anything that looked like dirt, I was out.
Yeah.
That's it, but I will zone in on one little ding or scratch and let that ruin a whole big thing for me a lot.
Now, I could say that there's probably, because one of the things that I probably do in regards to that is I want to be honest with people.
Yeah.
Almost to a fault.
Yeah.
And sometimes I will like say things that I'm being honest. You asked me a question and you didn't really want the honest answer.
Right.
I struggle with, well, if you ask me the question,
yeah,
am I supposed to lie to you?
I thought I was going to flip a car one time, and I bought the nicest 1984 fucking Firebird you've seen since 1984. This thing was beautiful. It was already beautiful the day I got it. I got a good deal on it. But I spent so much money on it doing stupid little shit to it, like changing the radio knob or, you know, this or that by the time it was all done, I couldn't sell it and make any money on it. And anytime somebody coming to look at it, I wanted to say, oh, well, the fucking radio knob's fucked up or whatever, you know. I wanted to point out every single thing, so I immediately knew I'm not a car salesman. I can't do that. But little things drive me crazy. Like, my dad says I'll swallow an elephant and gag on a gnat, which is, you know, it's accurate. Sometimes I'll let the biggest things in the world go right by, but a little tiny something will fuck me up bad. Especially if I get it in my head. If I see, you know, a little ding or whatever, if I see it, I now know it's there. And fuck.
Now you can never not see it.
Now I can never not see it. It'll be the first thing I see when I look at a brand new shiny car is, oh, there's that ding in the door.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, but I guess that's what I mean by my inner monologue shit talks a lot. Because it is always showing me the downside of things. I don't remember the last time that my inner monologue pep talked me.
Never pep talk. So another part of this is, what do you feel like is probably the wildest thing that your inner dialogue is throwing out at you? Man,
I don't know. Like, my inner monologue is pretty realistic for the most part. Like, I don't have like wild fantasy kind of bullshit going on in my head very much.
But you said you'll tend to run through the negative of every worst case scenario.
I'm saying wild negative to the good scenarios.
Yeah.
I mean, I do, honestly, if I get a phone call that says, hey, we've got a stack of comic books in the basement, all the way there, I'm thinking back and forth. I'm thinking, oh, but what if there's some really good shit there? And then it's, oh, no, it's all going to be fucking 90s junk. I always try to temper my expectations, I guess.
So it's interesting.
Because I don't like disappointment. So I always try to tell myself there's going to be nothing there. That way I'm not disappointed.
That's because one of the things that I do is I will over dramatize the fantasy side of it.
Yeah.
So like if I am going to like a big meeting or something and there's an opportunity to maybe meet some things or something like that, I will literally play through my head all the different ways that could turn into cool. Like, oh, we have a conversation, and then this opens this door, and this opens this door, and you know, thinking about the podcast, I went through all the gambit in my head of daydreaming of basically it catching on and being something silly, you know, to where we're getting so. That's where I will play out those daydreams in my head, and I will also almost have reactions if I was ever put in a position to talk to the right person that can maybe do this or do that. How would I handle that situation? So,
see, I take the exact opposite approach to it. Like I know you get frustrated with me sometimes because I'm like, I'll do this, but like I'm just doing it with you. You know, I'm just doing it for my own peace of mind or whatever. Because it is a little cathartic to sit here and just talk bullshit.
Yeah,
and, you know,
absolutely.
Sit here and tell lies to each other or whatever, you know. But I really have no expectations. Nor have I ever really fantasized that anybody will ever fucking listen to this thing. I just tell myself, okay, the worst case scenario is I lose an hour a week of my time or whatever.
It gets turned into worst case scenario. I lose an hour of my time.
Yeah, the best case scenario is better than that.
Yeah,
but I blow an hour of my time a week on stupid shit on Chinese buffet.
Yeah. I don't know that frustrated is the accurate term though, because to start with, I was asking and pushing a lot because I wanted you to be part of it, right? Because we're doing this together, and then it became clear. Yeah, I'll show up, I'll chat, I'll put effort into it, but whatever you want to do as far as the planning wise, have at it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've made no secret. This is your baby.
Yeah,
I'm just along for for the eye candy.
You're the eye candy and the talent.
Yeah,
you are
the
talent.
Fuck. What do you want from me, Ryan? I mean,
I've done all I can do.
Just here to look good and get you followers. Fuck.
Shit far.
Shit far, Mamo. Anyway, that's probably my whole inner monologue. As by the way, let's just get this out in the open. Some days my inner monologue wants to kill me, and some days my inner monologue wants me to conquer the earth. I do definitely wake up some mornings, and before fucking 8 o'clock, I will have cleaned the whole house and ready to conquer the fucking day or whatever. And then some mornings I want to wake up and put a gun in my mouth, but but that's neither here nor there. I think they probably call that bipolar. I don't know.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But anyway, so my inner monologue is
get a little nip of it.
Yeah, just a little nip. I missed it. Yeah. But so my inner monologue is probably an asshole, to be honest. He's probably trying to kill me most situations.
He's not being good to you,
no, he's not good to me at all. Anyway, I guess that's all I got to say about that. Really, that's all I got to say about that. Yeah, no shit. Where were you when the first time you saw Forrest Gump?
Oh God,
it's the best movie ever.
It's fantastic. I was probably at home. I did not see it at the movie theater.
Yeah.
And God, I can't even count the amount of times that I've watched it.
Yeah.
Or just pieces of it. Or,
it's one that if I'm flipping the channels, if it's on, I'm watching.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, I got one for you.
You
ready? You got anything else I need to address about yours?
No, I've had it.
Okay. You asked me one time what superpower I'd like to have. I think you did. Maybe you asked.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about. Well, it was a stupid.
Yeah, it was somehow. Anyway, I got thinking about this. What real human power would you like to have that you don't have? And I'm saying, I mean, it could be as simple as I'd like to have the power to say no, or it could be as complicated as, if you go on 23andMe or Ancestry or one of those things, they tell you all these genetic switches that you do or do not have.
Yeah.
Is there something that as a human you wish you have? And this gets down the rabbit hole of, is talent something you're born with or not? But anyway, we'll massage that in a minute. But what real human power do you wish you had?
That is a tough one. That's a good question.
Yeah, TikTok led me here.
Yeah, good old TikTok.
I'll tell you how later.
I believe I would like to have the ability to enjoy the now better.
That's good.
It's something I've proactively worked on, and it's way better than what it was, but I wish it wasn't such a challenge for me to be able to do that.
To live in the moment.
Yeah.
Instead of, where can I get next week?
Yeah, or what, oh gosh, I did this, and I'm constantly competing against myself.
Yeah.
So I don't, like with real estate and with sales, I don't compete with anybody. I don't really care what anybody else is doing. It's irrelevant. So I'm constantly competing with what I've either done or what I think I should be able to do, and I haven't hit quite yet.
Do you have monthly goals and shit?
I set them for all, obviously set them for myself. So the real estate's a little tough to do monthly goals because of the ebb and flow of our business and those kind of things. So I look at it more of like on a quarterly basis kind of thing. But like going on vacations and stuff like that, when you're in real estate, if you go on vacation, that's going to be the busiest that you ever are in your business. It's like, I have yet to be on a vacation where I've not sold multiple houses in the last 4 or 5 years, which is great.
Shit, just stay on vacation all the time.
That's what I need to do. So, but I think staying in the now is something that I am constantly working on and trying to be better at, and not worrying about what I got to do in 2 hours, but worry about what I've got to do right that minute, but that doesn't come to me naturally, and I wish it did.
That's a better answer than I thought you would cough up, to be honest. That's maybe a deeper answer than I thought. I assumed you'd say something like, I'd like to be able to fucking draw, or, I'd like to be able to fucking, which I don't know what you can do.
Yeah, I would.
Are you very creative, by the way? I think you've done some songwriting.
You know, done the music, done the songwriting. Yeah. I've written the children's book. So I feel like I've got an artistic brain. I am better at describing and pulling out from tools. Now I can't sit down. I couldn't sit down and draw you a mouse if my life depended on me. But I know what I feel like looks good. Yeah. And that I can use tools. So whenever I get to that point, I feel like I'm also pretty good at telling the story and telling the narrative and doing those things. So
So do you believe that the ability to, so do you believe that the ability to either sit down with a guitar and play a song, or to sit down with a pencil and draw a picture of you that looks like you, is that quote God-given talent, or is that just totally refined hard work?
I think it can be both.
Okay.
But I think that, because I think even if you've got a God-given talent, short of the 1% of the 1% of the 1% that are just Mozart-y kind of things, you have to work at it, and you have to put the effort in, and you may naturally sit down and do something that 99% of the people would go, oh my God, that is amazing. That is the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen. And then people that know would go, that's really freaking awesome. Yeah. But this line is off. That shade shouldn't be there. This, that kind of stuff. So I think you have to work on your talent.
Right. I think like we were talking Amanda and I were talking last night. I think art is being able to look at something and have the attention to detail and know that if the light's coming from the left, there's a shadow on the right.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I think a lot of that is definitely trained, but I hear artists get really pissed off when people come to them and say, wow, you have a talent. Too bad I don't have a talent. Because most people that are professional artists or whatever will say, well, that's because I worked my balls off to be this good or whatever.
Or someone that says, oh, they're an overnight success. That band just hit it.
Yeah, like, fuck you.
No, they told for about 10 years. And did it.
So I'm going to tell you this. I really like your answer a lot better than mine, because I feel like mine's cheap. You had a pretty good answer to that. But the thing I was fishing for, the thing I want that actual humans have, is perfect pitch.
Oh, I would love that. I will tell you, one of the things, to that degree, like I can sing a little bit, and I know I'm not super fantastic, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
But one of the things, I had the opportunity one time to basically have an engineer that was recording me, that I was basically doing a couple demos, and they were pitch perfect. So I'm singing, I feel like I've nailed it and done about as good as I could do as far as hitting everything. And I also know that, you can clean up a little bit, but they're like, no, I need you. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. And, I hear differences. So like a lot of times because we like to watch a lot of music shows and The Voice and those kind of things. And I can usually pick up and know almost instantly when they're going to like somebody. And I can tell that feeling. So I know whenever I'm off. So whenever I'm singing, I know when I hit it where I could basically be sitting in a room and most people go, okay, that's freaking sound awesome. The inner demon in your head that you're talking about, the whole rest of the time I'm singing, you're like, you dumbass. You just missed that. You butchered that note. Fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. I would love, because the other thing too was one time I was singing, which is whenever Tristan was younger. Tristan can sing really, really well. She won't ever do it, but she can sing really well. And for whatever reason, I don't remember, she was like 10, 12, whatever it was. And she heard me singing, and she came in and she started harmonizing. And then that jacked with my head, and she's like, oh, here, Daddy, you take the high part, and I'll do this part. And I'm like, yeah, not going to happen.
Yep.
Harmony I struggle with.
Yeah. It's really hard to match.
That's a good one, too. That's another good one. I would love to be
I do believe that perfect pitch is basically just a genetic switch, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think you can learn to know that. Roll your tongue.
But like somebody that can just roll off. What's his name? Which I think is a cool talent too. Is I can't believe I forgot his name. But anyway, he's on the Smartless podcast, and he can pull out dates like that.
Yeah.
Anytime.
So
30 years ago, he can say, oh, yeah, on July 12th, 1983, it was actually 92 degrees and one of the hottest days of the summer. And he can rattle off all this stuff.
Talked all this through last night on my back porch. And it's funny, it's led to kind of the same exact place. I think there's I don't know this, maybe somebody will be able to chime in. Okay, you see these people that can say, okay, November 12th, 1938. Oh, that was a Tuesday. Is that a mathematical trick?
That I don't know. Because that's like the way he is.
Or I'd say trick, but is there a way that's done with math? Or is that...
I would have to research that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's how that's done or not. Growing up, I'll tell you a young Jarrod story. Growing up, there was a guy in Grayson.
The real little Jarrod.
Yeah, the real little Jarrod. And when we were all, his name was Tommy Carroll. Shout out Tommy Carroll. He's dead. Anyway, he doesn't give a shit if we're shouting him out. Tommy was not quite normal. And for his generation, that was very, marginalizing probably.
Yeah.
So Tommy kind of lived his life. Well, he lived in a motel in Grayson, and he rode a bicycle all over town, and everybody just considered him the town crazy. But Tommy was very intelligent. He had a real special kind of mind. Anyway, he could tell you what day of the week, any date you told him. He could tell you what day of the week that was. And he remembered a lot of dates as far as he could tell you something that happened that day or whatever. Once he met you, he would see me in town, and he had basically just a memory of everyone in town.
We'll learn that, by the way. That's what I was trying to...
Yeah.
It wouldn't stop.
He had a memory of just about everyone in town, and he'd see me out in town. He'd say, Mr. Greer, son of Michael, grandson of Red. He would know your whole family. And if you told it, he would usually ask you when he first met you your name and your parents' name, and he usually already knew your parents' name because he knew your fucking parents. He just knew everybody. So
that's probably
in
what
town.
Autism, right?
Yeah, some sort of autism.
Yeah.
But the favorite thing to do was all the kids would see him on the bicycle or whatever, and they say, "Hey, Tommy, come here. How long you lived at the Shangri-La?" Because he lived at the Shangri-La restaurant and motel. And Tommy would say, "Well, I've lived at there." He didn't say shit, but I've lived at the Shangri-La 9 years. 3 months, 4 days, 6 hours, and 4 minutes now. And that was kind of the running thing that all the kids, Tommy'd be on his bicycle. There'd be 40 kids hanging out in Burger King's fucking parking lot, and here'd be Tommy in his 70s down there on his bicycle shooting the shit with us, learning everybody. Because he wanted to see young people and learn who they were.
Yeah, put it in his databank.
Yep. His data bank of who lived in that damn town. And he was a genius. He really was. Good dude all the way around. But I really think that people of his generation, with whatever challenges he faced, were just cast off. He was never going to thrive in society, at least at that time.
Well, yeah, because, probably his parents didn't probably know what to do with him. His family just was like, oh, this is,
Yep. I always felt bad for him. He'd be riding his bicycle down the road in the rain, just trucking down the street.
Remember, my dad used to play softball all the time over in Grayson, and it was only in Grayson that there was this dude that, kind of an older dude, probably in his 60s or something, that he would come and he would just stand behind the backstop, and he was always there. So every time you played in Grayson, you knew you were going to see this guy. And then they were playing softball, so every time they throw the ball, and then he would grab his hands and shake them all the way till it hit in the thing, and he'd stop. And then the next pitch, he'd take it. And I was like, oh my God, dude.
Do you think what the fuck is it? Is it cerebral palsies? So there was another guy in Grayson, his name was Junie Schaefer. He had, I want to say it's cerebral palsy, and I'm probably fucking that up. But anyway, he had something, he couldn't walk exactly. His gait was weird.
Yeah,
or whatever.
This guy's gait was weird.
Okay, that
he
was
would
probably
do the little thing.
Yeah, that was probably.
He walked a lot too. So
he walked all over
everywhere.
town. See him walking all over town. Yeah, it was probably Junie Schaefer.
So Grayson must be the place to go.
Yeah.
If you're marginalized.
I grew up there in Junie. Well, the only thing, Junie and Tommy both were just like town heroes, man. Now, like everybody knew him.
Yeah.
When you saw Junie walking, you stopped and picked him up and gave him a ride, and he'd tell you some funny fucking story.
Well, I remember one time whenever
I would tell you Junie stories, but I can't do it without imitating his voice, and that makes me an asshole.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and they're just not funny without it.
I can remember being like 10 or 12 years old, and I was visiting my grandfather, which had no association to the softball or whatever, but they lived in Webbville, and we drove by, and he was walking on the street.
Yep.
And Papaw pulled over, and he was driving a truck, an actual truck with a bed.
Actual truck with a bed. Junie got in the back.
And we were riding in the front, and he wanted to get a ride, and Papaw was like, well, you can ride in the back. And he was like, I can't get in the back. And he's like, now, Junie, I ain't put my boys in the back. So he's like, well, I'll just keep walking.
I wonder... that's a very unique thing of our generation. Like, if there's... so if there's a... Fuck it, I'm going to say it. If there's a weird person walking down the road, you ain't going to fucking stop and pick them up anymore. No. Especially you got your kids in your car.
Yeah. No, it's funny as I was telling that story, and I was thinking about that story. It pops in my head from time to time for whatever reason, because it just sticks out as a memory. And that's immediately what I think, that nobody's picking up anybody.
Holy fuck, wait a minute, stop. It just occurred to me, you're not talking about Junie Shaver, you're talking about Bob Barker, the guy that would stand at the baseball field with the backstop. That he probably had a few baseball cards in a rubber band too.
He always had on like a black suit.
Yep, black suit. Okay, that's Bob Barker. Okay, that's another fucking town crazy. No, he wasn't crazy. Bob was... I don't know what was up with Bob, but everybody gave Bob a ride. He drove everywhere. So I'm trying to think if there were any more. Basically, those are the three townies when I grew up.
Yeah, Bob was always at the whoever it was.
We called Bob Speedy because that some bitch, you'd pass him in town and you'd go 60 mile an hour somewhere and he'd beat you there because he got a ride with somebody doing 70 usually. But some bitch was walking, but he did. Now that you say that, he did always hang out at the ballpark, and he would always stand behind home plate. But he usually had a few baseball cards in a rubber band in his pocket, and we would trade cards with him sometimes as kids.
Cool.
Yeah.
I just remember he would do this.
Yep. Some of the kids younger than me called him Mr. Dollar Card, because if you wanted the card and you didn't have one to trade him, he'd charge you $1 for it. Real sad story. He got beat up really bad. He got picked up by some shitty people that picked him up and beat the shit out of him one time. But he was always just as nice a guy. All three of those dudes were as nice a guys as ever. But, growing up in the 80s, they were very marginalized by the people in town. They were very cast off and never really given any credit for being much of anything, But I couldn't, there's no way I could count on my fingers and toes how many times my grandparents or my dad or my mom or somebody gave one of them a ride.
Well, I can remember being younger whenever he first kind of would be around him, and it just scared me because it was something different. I was like, I wasn't comfortable around that. And I can remember the people on my dad's softball team, and, we're all kids, really, probably in their 20s and 30s at that point. Yep. And
Bob didn't.
They would go out of their way
very much.
Yeah, he didn't talk, but they would go out of their way to kind of say something to him, or they would introduce me or something like that, and he would like wave or do, can't remember what he did. So I mean, it was like, okay, this is kind of weird and kind of funny.
Now Junie went out of his way to talk a lot. He liked to fucking talk, and he didn't talk very plain, but he had some fucking stories. And so this is probably not suitable for podcasting, but I always heard that all the girls in town really liked Junie because he had a great big dick with a kink in it. That was always the story. Junie had a big dick with a kink in it, so all the girls liked Junie. And that said, on top of that, Junie was an audiophile. He always had the best stereo equipment. I think he was left some money, like from his parents or something. He always had really high-end audio equipment, and if something new came out, he would sell what he had, so lots of people would trade, home stereo shit. Home stereo shit was really big in the fucking 80s. Yeah. Like most people have a little bookshelf shit now or a damn Bluetooth speaker or something, but component home audio shit was a big deal in the fucking
records.
80s.
I remember my uncle had You had to have the diamond.
Yeah, I bought a set of Sir Vegas speakers off of Junie one time, and they were just. I have 10 sets of them now because I buy them every time I see them. I have that's a sickness I have. I didn't think I was going to expose this. I buy cool speakers every time I see them, and I have like tons of vintage home audio speakers in my warehouse on pallets.
It's a good spot for them to be.
Yeah. Because I just buy them. I mean, I don't really have any use for them. I have a stereo here. I have a stereo at my office. Jackson put a set of Sir Vegas exactly like I bought from Junie in his store, and he said it's the most complimented thing in his store. He said most of the time when people walk in his store, they say those speakers are badass.
Yeah.
Rather than the $500 shirt he's got on the wall, he gets pissed off that I gave him a set of speakers everybody really likes.
But that stuff was made right.
Yeah, fuck yeah. They're still super badass speakers. Anyway, I guess the moral of this podcast is I grew up in a town with lots of fucking strange characters, let's say.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that, but yeah you did.
Man, Grayson was where it was at when
Yeah.
it was. Although I've heard that Ironton, Ohio has its share of townies, let's call them.
Yeah.
So, by the way, in Grayson, I only found this out halfway recently. In Grayson is Kentucky Christian College, it's KCU now, Kentucky Christian University. When I was a kid, it was Kentucky Christian College, KCC. And it's funny how, and even in Moorhead where we were, it's funny how the college is very segregated from the town. Like, in Grayson, growing up as 19 or 20 years old, those people, we actually called them Caseonites.
Caseonites?
Yeah, which just meant they were college students at the Christian University that we didn't associate with.
Yeah.
I only recently found out they called us townies. Yeah, and they're cautioned not to basically fraternize with the townies. Yeah. So anyway, I only found that out halfway recently. I don't know. You got anything else?
I don't believe so.
Shit.
It's a good one though. This took some wild tangents and trips down memory lane.
Wait a minute. Fucking Junie told me one time. I'm not going to imitate his voice, I promise. But Junie told me one time he hated old people. And he called them Crinklys, and he said, Crinklys are awful. I just fucking hate them. And he was going off because the old lady next door to him, he would crank his stereo up. She called the fucking law on him. But he just hated old people.
Oh.
And
there's no way that the name of this episode is not Crinklys.
Yeah. Anyway, Junie called them Crinklys, and he fucking hated them. All right.
And just like that, another episode of Two Guys, Two Questions is in the books.
We laughed, we learned, well, we mostly just laughed.
Yeah, and if you made it this far, congratulations. You now have random knowledge you never asked for.
You're welcome.
Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review. Or don't, but just know if you don't, we're bringing back the squeaky toys.
Oh, it's coming back either way.
Until next time, same two guys, two questions, and absolutely no idea what we're doing.
Perfect.